So if you're thinking about moving to Healdsburg, you're probably thinking to yourself, what's it really like? And will I like it once I actually get there? Well, my wife and I first bought a place here 7 years ago. And so combined with our thoughts, I asked some friends and clients to share some facts about Healdsburg that they know now, but didn't know before they moved here. And that's what this video is all about. Helping you understand some of the things about Healdsburg that you may not know until you live here. So I put together a list of 10 Healdsburg facts that you may or may not know. So watch this video all the way to the end. Let me know in the comments below how many of these you knew, and feel free to add some other facts that you discovered when you moved here. Fact number 1. Healdsburg was the centre of the prune packing industry. Today everyone knows Healdsburg for its grapes, but during the 1800s, fruit canning and packing was big business in Healdsburg. The extension of the railroad led to grain and cattle farms being replaced with fruit orchards, in particular plum trees. It's this history that gives the city's beloved baseball team its name, the Prune Packers. In fact, to this day, there's actually a storage facility over by the river that still has the tracks and turntable where they pull the trays of plums out to dry in the sun. The kilns themselves are actually individual storage units, which is pretty cool. Second thing, Healdsburg has its own utility company. If you live in Healdsburg City, you don't have to deal with PG&E. This might not seem like a big deal, but in recent years, this has become a huge benefit because it means that, on the whole, when PG&E has its PSP events, when it shuts down power across a large area of the county due to high winds and fire risk, the lights continue to stay on for Healdsburg residents. Number 3, 41% of Healdsburg energy is geothermal. So while nearly 6% of Healdsburg energy is from either no carbon or low carbon sources, 41% of the energy is from the Geysers geothermal plant, which is located in the Geysers to the northeast of Healdsburg. Continuing its shift to clean power generation, in January 2021, Healdsburg completed a nearly 5 megawatt solar array, which actually floats on the recycled water ponds at the city's wastewater treatment plant. This is actually the largest floating solar array in the US, and 9% of Healdsburg electricity now comes from this huge solar array. You can see how the allocation very quickly gets taken up well into the future. The limit on the number of new homes built is one reason you see so many homes being knocked down to build new homes, because if you knock down an old house, the new house doesn't count as one of the 30 units for the year. Number 4, only 30 new homes per year can be built in Healdsburg. There's a reason real estate is at a premium here. The city's growth management ordinance dictates that only 30 new market rate homes can be built each year, or more accurately, only 90 units every 3 years. Of the 30 units that can be built each year, 10 of them are for small projects that are of 4 units or less, and then 20 are for large projects that are more than 4 units. If you consider projects like Mill District and Montage, which are both currently under construction with well over 150 units between them, you can see how the allocation very quickly gets taken up well into the future. And the limit on the number of new homes built is one reason you see so many homes being knocked down to build new homes. Because if you knock down an old house and then build a new house, the new home doesn't count as one of the 30 units for the year. So number 5, Healdsburg actually has some sporting heritage. In the square, you may have seen a statue dedicated to a couple of world champion athletes, including Andrew Beeson, who was a high jump champion. On May the 2nd, 1914, Beeson, competing for the Olympic Club in San Francisco, cleared a world record high jump of just over 6 foot 7 inches. Unfortunately, he never had his moment of fame because he never got to compete in the 1960 Olympic Games in Berlin because it was cancelled due to the First World War, and so he never appeared on the Olympic stage. However, his world record high jump stood for just over 10 years. So number 6, 57% of home purchases are secondary homes. Some people who move here are concerned there'll be lots of homes sitting empty during the week. There's no question that the whole second home ownership thing is a hot topic. However, although 57% of purchases last year were from people buying a home that was not their primary residence, you need to look beyond the actual data to really understand what's happening. This number has actually been pretty consistent over the past few years. However, the way these homes are being used are very different today than was the case in 2019 before the pandemic. I have a number of clients who purchased a home that is technically a second home, certainly as far as the taxman is concerned. But because of changes in working practices, they now live in their second home more than they do in their primary home. You only need to compare walking around town midweek today versus doing the same in the winter of 2019. Today you see a lot more homes with lights on and cars in the drive compared to before the pandemic, which is obviously great for both the community and the local economy. So while the bars and restaurants make their money from tourists, certainly the weekend, they do rely on the locals to literally keep the lights on during the winter months. So number 7, Healdsburg covers an area of 188 square miles. Healdsburg is actually a lot bigger in geographic size than a lot of people realise. When people talk about Healdsburg, they're either talking about the city of Healdsburg or they're talking about an area that is covered by the 95448 zip code. Healdsburg city is just 4.4 square miles and has a population of just over 11,000 people, which is actually quite similar in size to Mill Valley, where I used to live, which is a population of 14,000. However, there are 184 square miles of rural Healdsburg where just another 5,500 people live. These people clearly have a lot of space, with an average of 900,000 square feet per person compared to 11,000 square feet per person in the city. So number 8, going out to eat on the weekend and on a Monday or Tuesday is problematic. We all know Healdsburg's a foodie town. Food and wine is very much a part of the lifestyle. However, a lot of people don't realise before they move here that because it's so popular with visitors coming up for the weekend, it's actually pretty hard to go out at the weekend to eat, unless you're really organised and book weeks in advance. This isn't such a problem, as you just have to plan accordingly. It does mean that the weekends, the focus tends to be on, locals eating out at friends' houses, especially during the summer when we all pretty much entertain the whole time outside. After not eating out at the weekend, you might think that Monday and Tuesday would be the night to go out. Well, that doesn't really work either, because a lot of the restaurants give their staff a break on Monday and Tuesday and so don't open. Don't get me wrong, these are clearly high-class problems to work around, but it isn't something I'd really appreciated until I moved here. So number 9, there are more wineries than you think. When you're a visitor, people often don't stray that far away from the plaza. Everyone knows around the plaza itself there are numerous tasting rooms. But as you venture out from the plaza, there are many, many more tasting rooms that maybe you don't think about. At the last count in 2021, there were 40 tasting rooms in the downtown area alone. And bear in mind that there's 60 wineries in the Dry Creek Valley, and then another 30 wineries in Alexander Valley. So it's no wonder that the competition between all these wineries is so fierce. It's hard to single out any one particular winery, but one I would like to single out is Marine Lair, which is located right in the square. This only recently opened and is the brainchild of Baron Ziegler, who also founded Banshee, that you may be familiar with, which was sold to the Foley Group. In many ways, it actually borrows from a number of the elements which made Banshee so successful. Rather than just creating a tasting room, they've tried to create an environment which is much more like a lounge or wine bar than a tasting room. So if you fancy a glass of wine, it's a great alternative to going to a bar. Because of this, it's also open a little bit later than a lot of the tasting rooms. And finally, number 10, Lake Sonoma is a great area for hiking. Having moved from the Bay Area, and Mill Valley in particular, we had a pretty high bar when it comes to having great hiking on our doorstep. I've met people who've lived here for 5-10 years and never even been to Lake Sonoma. There's over 40 miles of hiking trails, with trails that are, a short 2 to 3 mile loop, or you can put together hikes that are 10 plus miles in length. For dog lovers among you, unlike many of the trails on places like Mount Tam, for example, you are actually allowed dogs as long as they're on a leash. In addition to hiking, if camping is your thing, then there are also some great options for hiking, camping, as well as car and RV camping. Around the lake, there are also some boat-in campsites, which is great if you've got a boat, but you can also rent a boat to use overnight at one of these campsites. So those are my 10 facts about Healdsburg that I didn't know in advance of moving here. If you have some others, please do comment in the comments below. If you are considering moving here, you may be interested in my other video covering the things I wished I knew before moving to Healdsburg from Mill Valley. To get other videos like this, please do hit like and subscribe. Until the next video, go well.